Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Pointy Not Sharp. Today we're taking a look at one of my favourites, the Portuguese Model 1904 Bayonet. It looks like a standard Mauser bayonet, but there's a couple very discrete differences and a bit of a cool backstory to it, as well as a lot of really cool accessories that no other Mauser bayonet even came close to matching. Now, this was made for initially the 6.5mm Model 1904 Mauser Vergueiro rifle. It's a bit of a hybrid of a rifle in that it's got the receiver and barrel and body and stock of a Mauser, but then it's got the bolt of a Mannlicher. So it's kind of got the best of the two, and it's quite a good design, honestly. I've got to play with a couple, and I really quite like them. Now, later in life, that rifle was updated in 1939 to the 8mm Model 1904/39 Mauser Vergueiro short rifle. I might quickly cover off why it's called the Vergueiro. It was actually designed by a Portuguese infantry officer. I've got his name here somewhere. I wrote it down. I might come back to that when I reach that in my notes, but yeah, essentially there were a couple of contenders for during their trials for the rifle they're going to adopt. Mannlicher rifles, Mauser rifles, and this fella put his own together and did pretty well. There was a little bit of bureaucracy, a bit of stuffing around until it finally got adopted, but that's what they went with. Anyway, back to the topic of the video, which is not rifles, it's bayonets. The bayonet here, the Model 1904, was manufactured in Germany by Simpson & Co. in Suhl, as you can see here on the Ricasso. They've got their stamping. It's very common for those stamps to be very lightly struck and hard to read, so I'm very happy with the clear markings I have on this one. Now, it's a little unclear exactly how many of these were made. From what I can tell, definitely 75,000 were made for Portugal, and potentially another 25,000 rifles were manufactured. So definitely another 5,000 were made for Brazil, but they had their own style of bayonet, so that doesn't count towards these. And another 20,000 were supplied to South Africa, but it's unclear if those were 20,000 of the Portuguese 75,000 contract or an additional 20,000. So some places say 75,000 of these were made. Some places say 100,000. I'll stick to 75 because those sources are a little bit more credible. Now, they were only made from 1904 through until 1907 when Portugal ran out of funding. They were probably the poorest country in Europe at the time. And if they're running out of money for rifles and bayonets, they're definitely not doing well. And pretty much everything else has probably been cut away long before rifles and bayonets. So, yeah. But a little bit of history into where they came from. So, leading into 1904, Portugal were looking for a replacement for their Kropatschek rifle, the Model 1886. Now, that was a black powder repeating rifle with a tube magazine. It was cutting edge when it came out, but 5 minutes after it was released, the French came around with their Lebel rifle and smokeless powder, and it's already obsolete, unfortunately. And while it did lend itself pretty well to conversions to smokeless powder, tube magazines were not terribly desirable, when you compare them to M-block clips and magazines and your Mauser style internal magazine where you just use a charger clip to load 5 rounds. So Portugal were looking for a replacement, and that's what they found with the Model 1904. So the rifle was designed by infantry officer Jose Alberto Vergueiro, and they were actually manufactured by DWM in Germany, which is, see if I can pronounce this, Deutsche Waffen Munitionsfabriken. Probably way off. Feel free to critique me down below. Now, these bayonets here replaced the bayonets already in service, which was the Kropatschek bayonet. And I have one here. And they are absolutely massive. And as you can see, it's got a Yataghan style blade, which is a recurved or double curved blade. And that's a design that was really out of favour. And long bayonets by this point were pretty much out of favour among a lot of countries like Germany and Austria and Switzerland. And Portugal was sort of under the sway of Germany and Austria at the time, so they followed suit with what they were doing and adopted a shorter bayonet. Kropatschek was very, very heavy, very, very long. The yataghan style was really, no one was using it anymore. In fact, it was actually the Brazilian contract with their yataghan bayonets for the Model 1904, same rifle, that was the last yataghan blade that was ever issued. And I'd love to get my hands on one of those, and one day I will, and I'll make a fantastic video because I love that bayonet. Anyway, these bayonets were used in World War One, but they weren't used in Europe. So Portuguese soldiers did fight in Europe, but they fought under the British and they used British equipment, so the SMLE and the patent 1907 bayonet. So these were used in other theatres like the colonies and places like that. Some of the colonies were still using older equipment for a very, very long time. Like from what I've read, in World War Two, Portuguese colony in East Timor was still using the Kropatschek rifle against the Japanese. So these monster long bayonets were still used there. Now, towards the end of the life of these bayonets, leading into World War II, Portugal was adopting a lot of Kar 98s provided by Germany with the 84/98 bayonet. A lot of these were retained with their Model 1904/39 rifles, but a lot of these were also converted into another pattern of bayonet, and that was the model of 938 for the MP34 submachine gun. It's not clear exactly how many of them were converted because you don't come across them very often. I have yet to see one. But the way they converted them was they shortened the handle by removing a little bit of length off the tang and bringing the pommel up. And they put on a new crossguard with a muzzle ring that sat further away from the handle. So cool little bayonet. I have yet to see one. And that's another one on my dream list that I want to get my hands on. Now, the cool thing about these bayonets is their frogs, and I don't have one because they're really collectible and really, really expensive, and in all honesty, the frog for this cost more than the bayonet. But there's a whole bunch of different styles and patterns of frogs, and something the Portuguese did really, really well that no one else did is combination frogs. While other people did do it, no one did it like the Portuguese. So they had their initial Model 1904 frog, which is just, pretty boring leather frog with a little strap on it. But then you have some of the more interesting ones, like their dual-purpose frog, which has a wire cutter at the back. I nearly bought one of those very recently with the original wire cutters. And it was going to cost me a lot more than I paid for this bayonet, and I decided to buy another bayonet instead, so I've got more content for videos for you guys. But it was very, very expensive. Very good condition though. I do like them a lot. That said though, they've got another quite a few other different kinds of frogs out there. Like they've got their mounted troop frog, which is like on a 45-degree angle. I would love to get my hands on one of those. I've only ever found photos of one, and that's what I'm showing you here, and that's a collector. I've got a lot of these photos, by the way, from a bayonet frog group off Facebook, so I'm part of a whole bunch of groups online with a whole bunch of experts and some fantastic knowledge there. So if you like bayonets, jump on Facebook, and there's 101 different bayonet groups, and most of them are fantastic. If I'm using your photos, sorry, but I couldn't find any other photos anywhere. Believe me, I looked. Anyway, so got the regular frog, dual purpose, the mounted troops. Then we've got the really cool combination frogs with entrenching tools. There's a couple of different styles of these. So you'll have the bayonet on one side with the entrenching tool, shovel head in the center, and the helve on the other side. And then you've got some other kinds where you'll have like a fold over, almost like a bag with the entrenching tool head inside and the helve on the front. I've never come across one of those. I've only found a couple of photos online, but very, very cool. But they made a whole lot of different kinds of entrenching tool frogs, but by far the most common is the first kind I showed you the photo of. And finally, probably not finally, there's probably a lot more I haven't found because even finding the photos is difficult. But they also have a combination axe frog with the axe head sitting behind the bayonet. Now, I've only come across 2 of these ever, and that was in my group, and that was people who were not selling them, only providing photos. From what I can tell, finding the axe is even harder than finding the frog, and I haven't even found a frog yet, so good luck finding an axe. That said, though, that's a lot about frogs. We'll jump back into the bayonet. That's the topic of the video today. We'll jump into the construction. Now, if you're familiar with Mauser bayonets, which I assume a lot of people are, you'll recognise the style of blade. It's very, very iconic for German Mauser design, going all the way back to, oh God, what was the first one? I don't even know. Maybe the Argentinian 1891. Probably earlier than that. Then like your other model of 1895s, very similar again. But the blades on these are a little longer than your 1895s, and you'll notice the muzzle ring sits a lot lower. There are a lot of differences between these and regular Mauser bayonets. So the handle is a little bit shorter than your other Mauser bayonets, and it won't actually fit to a Mauser. It's got its own unique sizing. And originally these were manufactured with the blade in the white. It was only through refurbs that the blades were blued so heavily, and they've got a very, very dark and heavy blue on them, as you can see. Other than that, it's just a standard Mauser bayonet, really. Got their inspection slot, wooden grips, screws. Got our mortise, just like a lot of your other Mausers. It has the hole in the back of the mortise here for the cleaning rod. So the cleaning rod has a little accommodation there at the bottom of the mortise, as you can see. And standard push button. Nothing too special there. What makes these really recognisable, because there are so many different Mauser bayonets out there and it can be really difficult to identify a lot of them, is Portuguese bayonets will generally have a serial number on the side of the pommel, pretty much exactly where that one is. And it'll be a standard Mauser style serial number with your 4 numbers and a letter at the front. And with your Mauser bayonets, I don't know if it's the same here, but with most Mauser bayonets, the letter indicates batches of 10,000, and the first 10,000 of production have no letter at all. So your first 10,000, just numbers, 4 numbers. Then your second 10,000, being 10,000 to 19,999, is A. So B would indicate 20,000. So serial number here, 27,642, assuming it follows that same system. But I haven't found anything to suggest it doesn't. Then you'll have your manufacturer's mark here on the right ricasso. And as I said, the stampings can be very light and sometimes you can't even see them. I'm very lucky. This is a fantastic stamping on this one. But the manufacturer will always be Simpson, Co. and Sul. And it'll always be in the same spot. Now we have proof marks on these. See if we can find mine. It's on the crossguard. It's just above my thumbnail here, if you can see it. There we go. There's a couple of different proof marks. I don't know the meaning or the reason that they're different. Maybe different inspectors or different factories within Simpson & Co. Sul, I don't know. Or maybe different times of manufacture. But you do come across 2 or 3 different proof marks here, and they're very small and very, very hard to make out. And finally, we have one other marking. I'm not too sure what to call this part of the bayonet, because well, the top's the spine. I don't know what you call the bottom at the base of the blade here, but as you can see, you've got an upside down J. This will be really tricky to focus. There we go. And from what I can tell, that's an inspection mark as well. And just above that, right at the base, is a bit of an O as well, like right up here. What have I done? Well, there we go. I only discovered these markings the other day. So I've had this bayonet for a little while, and hell, I've been reading about these bayonets for a very long time, and I've never seen that marking before, and it was a nice little welcome surprise when I did find it. There's actually another YouTube video on this bayonet. I forget the name of the channel. It's like a English bloke with a pretty heavy accent. But good video. Yeah, but he was the one who pointed out in his video, and that was the first I saw of them. Like, not even Cobb on the World of Bayonet's websites noticed it on his. Whether or not he has it, I don't know. Anyway, guys, this has turned into a much longer video than I first intended, but this is a bayonet that I really, really like. They are quite hard to get. I say that, but they've been really common lately. Like, they've got a reputation of being hard to get, but I've seen quite a few go on eBay recently really cheap, and I got this one super cheap because the seller didn't know what it was. It just called it a Mauser bayonet and didn't have great photos. I just managed to see the serial number out the corner of the photo and snapped it up for a bargain. But they do have a reputation for being hard to get, the same as the rifles. So yeah, if you can get one, I highly recommend you do. It's a very, very nice bayonet, and I like it a lot. I should probably jump into the scabbard. No markings, standard Mauser scabbard, nothing on the mouth, held in by rivets, and nothing on the stud. It is a completely standard Mauser scabbard with a ball finale at the bottom that someone's flattened by using it as a hammer. But yeah, that's it. If you have anything you'd like to add, feel free to comment below if I made any mistakes or you have any other fantastic information. Other than that, thanks for watching. Have a good day.